This is Eyewitness News Up Close.
Nydia Velazquez is retiring after serving more than 3 decades in Congress. Since 2013, she's represented New York's 7th Congressional District, which covers parts of northern Brooklyn and western Queens.
Velazquez has endorsed Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, but Mayor Mamdani has endorsed Democratic Socialist and New York Assemblywoman Claire Valdez. This morning on Up Close, we talked to both Valdez and Reynoso.
And good morning to you and welcome to Up Close. I'm Liz Chow.
And I'm Bill Ritter. We're going to begin with Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, now running for Congress. Mr. Reynoso, welcome back to Up Close.
Happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Let's get right to it.
Yes.
You have more than 3 years left in your second term as Bronx Borough President.
Brooklyn.
Did I say Bronx?
You did, but it's all
It's
right.
a B. So
It is.
pretty
It's
good.
all love. It's all
No,
love.
seriously though, why do you want to become, running for Congress now and become a congressman?
I know. Well, look, I really think that where we are in the city and the state with our leadership is in the right direction. I feel that they're taking care of the working class and the poor. We're working on universal child care, building more housing. So I feel like we're on the right track in New York. Where all of our headaches are coming from is exclusively the federal government. We turn the page on a newspaper every single day. There's another crisis, whether it's a war that is illegal or unnecessary. We're spending $2 billion a day instead of paying for Medicare for seniors or SNAP benefits for the poor. Those are the things we're seeing. So I want to use my leadership and the work that I've done in the last 13 years as an elected official. I want to use that to be able to bring about meaningful and effective change at the federal level. So that's why we're heading to Congress.
As we have said in the top of the show, that you have received the endorsement of veteran New York Congressman Nydia Velazquez. She blessed you very, very early on.
She did.
How much of an impact has her endorsement had on your campaign? And how much do your issues with the retiring congressman, how much do they align?
Almost one-to-one. Nydia raised us. I've come from the political school of Nydia Velazquez, is what I always say. And the people of this district have a lot of trust and faith in Nydia. She's taking a lot of time to get to the places and issues that are important to them. And when she blesses somebody or she gives them their endorsement, it means a ton. She's the first Puerto Rican woman elected to this office, and it was not an easy fight for her to get here. It's a special district for Latinos and Puerto Rico. For Puerto Rico, her being there means that they have a representative, even though there's no representative at the federal level on the island. So it means the world. I want to do the best I can to fill her 6-inch heels, is what we're saying. But the most important thing is that her legacy is intact, and the work that she did to build this bench of young elected officials, that one of us, the people that she's imparted with her wisdom, be the person to take up her legacy, I think is deeply important, and I'm excited to be that person.
She endorsed you.
She did.
The mayor has now endorsed your opponent.
Yes.
We're going to ask her why, and why he did that, and why do you think he did it, number one, and what's your relationship like right now?
All right. So look, I want to be perfectly honest. The DSA is a part of our community, and they're also part of a coalition of progressive organizations that help get a ton of things done, not only in this district, but throughout the city. But they're a part of that coalition. They're not the whole thing. And I represent a larger, more broader, more diverse coalition than just the DSA. So they're a member of it, but they're not it. Now, Mayor Mamdani has decided that he's going to stay loyal in an open seat to his party. So it's like party politics, and he's going to go with somebody that endorsed him very early on, even though I endorsed him as well, but somebody that endorsed him early on and is a member of the DSA. And I would say this, that I am a DSA ally. But in solidarity, not in membership. And that's kind of the case that I make to folks. Like, we've done progressive work. We've laid down the foundation to allow for Zohran Mamdani to win. And that coalition is a lot broader than just the DSA.
Do you think, and we should say DSA, it stands for Democratic Socialist Association.
Yes,
Viewers
yes.
at home may not know that. Do you think, though, the endorsement rift, because Nydia Velazquez, she was not happy that Mamdani did not endorse you and went with Valdez. Do you think it has become a bit of a distraction within the campaign that you were both trying to run?
Yeah. So I would say this. Nydia was not upset that he didn't endorse me. He has a right to endorse whoever he wants. Is that she wanted to have a conversation. We've done all this work together. She was the first congresswoman to endorse Zohran Mamdani for his race for mayor in the primary when it wasn't popular. He was still down in the polls. So she just wanted a courtesy to be able to sit with him, talk about all the folks that are within. There's like 15 amazing leaders within this district that we could have had discussions about. And she felt that she wasn't awarded that conversation in earnest, and that he came out and just supported his candidate and didn't give her enough time. So I just think it's about courtesy, just having a conversation with an ally more than it is anything else.
Normally, you know, it would be fine to do all this stuff, but a lot of Democrats are worried that given what's happening in this country right now, and into politics as well, that you two should be doing things, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But you're going at each other.
Yeah. So I want to be very clear. I'm an ally of Mayor Mamdani. There are things where we disagree, or where I think we might need to push him further left, even on some issues like the police, some issues with ICE, and so forth. But I am an ally. We are on the different sides right now of this race, but we're not different sides of our politics long term. We're going to be aligned. I'm going to be making sure that his agenda is fulfilled, and the things that I believe that are good that he's doing, he's going to see me continue to be a friend. So I want to be very clear. Politics is a long game. It's a marathon. Don't burn bridges over nonsense. And this is a race that's going to happen, and then we'll go on from there.
Really quickly, though, if you don't win on the 23rd of this month, you're still going to be a member of this academy here. It is the big city of New York.
Exactly.
And you're going to have to deal with this guy.
Yes. And we will, and I will. And I've always dealt with him before. I'll deal with him again. I don't think that this is, I don't hold grudges. I've gotten very far with a lot of love in my heart, and I don't have many enemies and in this business it's easy to get them. But I just feel like we got more work to do to help people than it is to fight each other. So I'm not petty. This is a good race. I'm having a lot of fun in this race.
Clearly.
Yes, and it's going to continue to be that way. I'm a borough president of love. I talk about it all the time. It's not just a slogan. It truly is who I am. I'm a joyful person. So no one in New York 7 needs to worry. No one in Brooklyn needs to worry. We are going to be supporting the families of this borough, of this city, and that's the most important thing.
Well, let's talk about some of the work that you want to do. And you have been campaigning. You have been Brooklyn Borough president for quite a while now. What are your constituents telling you that are the big pressing issues that then, if you are elected, you're going to take to DC?
The number one issue is affordability and housing. And that's it. Like, I want to be very clear. A lot of people talk about politics and, we're going to put up videos and mailers, or just make my rent cheaper and you win, right? Like, that's what they care about. So we have to unlock the levers that existed in the past that allowed for that to happen. We used to have 202 funding that used to build senior housing. Mitchell-Lama used to be like middle-class home ownership. We have NYCHA developments that were built under Lindsay that was deeply important. All those things helped us get out of a crisis back then. We're in a crisis right now, and we can't use any of those levers. The Fairclough Amendment makes it so that we can't build new NYCHA. We have no Section 8 in New York State. So what I want to do is go to the federal government and figure out a way to unlock those levers and allow for us to be partners with the city and the state in building a ton of new housing.
Well, and the mayor has asked that he wants to do that. Billions of dollars worth, right? So there's that, and there's also healthcare, which is a big deal in your area as well.
Absolutely. So we keep talking about universal healthcare, and it's deeply important. But right now, I just came from a press conference that I was hosting related to SNAP benefits. There's a huge scam going on with SNAP benefits where they steal your information, they take all your food, and after they take your food, you don't get that money back even after you've shown to HRA that there's fraud happened. So if you go 2 months without any money and you finally get a new card, there's no reimbursement for what you've lost. You just go on, in those 2 months you suffered, and it's just like, they just forget about it.
So how do you fix the problem?
So the first thing is that they're supposed to be putting chips on the new EBT cards, and they're just taking too long to make that happen. The second thing is, if you go on the website, it is the most primitive website that you could possibly imagine. Very easy and exposes fraud. And the third thing is to have a fund at the city or the state that in the cases where fraud is justified or they see that fraud actually happened, that we can give people money back for food in the month that they're not getting help. And we're talking about $100, $200. We're not talking about thousands of dollars here. These are families. If it's one person, it might be $80. But that $80 goes a long way for people that need it.
Let's get to
feeding their family on that that $80.
No question. Let's go to the flip side of that, and that is how to get people to have better jobs.
Yeah. So economic development is deeply important. And this is the city that's built on jobs. A lot of people talk about it. And I'll give one example of just like being thoughtful. We need to be creative and we need to have big ideas. During COVID, we were losing thousands of jobs because everyone had to stay home. And the people that were suffering the most are the folks that had jobs, let's say in restaurants and in the service industry. I actually was the legislator that legislated outdoor dining. I know a lot of people that drive cars weren't happy about it, but it saved 100,000 jobs during COVID and allowed for these businesses to stay open and these jobs to stay there.
And it really changed the New York restaurant industry now.
I think so too. And so, but the idea there is not only that idea was something that was important during COVID, is that when there is crisis, I sit and I think about things in a very thoughtful way, and I'm able to execute. And what people want us to go to the federal government to do is not be talking heads, not be performative, to actually get things done. And my history as borough president in the city council has shown that I'm an effective leader.
We're also in an immigration crisis right now. And so what would you do? I mean, as we have seen in Newark at Delaney Hall, at 26 Federal Plaza, where you have been working with families there. But also on the flip side of it, when you have many other people in this country who are saying that they supported Trump's hard line on closing the borders.
Yes. So I would even say this. I think Trump supporters heard murders and rapists. That's what they heard, and that we were going to get rid of those folks. I don't think there's one person in this entire city and in this entire country that would disagree with that. But then we see a 5-year-old boy get arrested. Then we see students getting arrested, and we start having a different conversation. It's like, excuse me, that's not who we were talking about. There are millions of people, especially here in New York City, that contribute greatly through taxes and are building families here that know nothing about their country of origin because they haven't been there in the last 15 to 20 years. And that's what we're going after. I just don't think it's the message that Trump was trying to send or that Trump actually intended, but he's executing something completely different. But I want to say also that Wyckoff Hospital, we had NYPD supporting NICE in that interaction. And my worry is that a young boy is going to break his arm playing Little League, and a mother's going to think twice about whether or not she should take her son to the hospital. And that's what sanctuary city laws do. They just make it so that, yes, mom, bring him to the hospital and don't worry about deportation.
We have about 20 seconds left for you to talk. All right. What are the things that we have not talked about that you would have liked to have talked about?
I think it's the fact that my history, I was a kid on welfare, food stamps, Section 8. I was born and raised in the local community, and that when I say things, I'm not talking about them because I saw it on TV or I read it in a paper. It's because my experience, I've lived them. So when folks need somebody to fight for them related to SNAP benefits or Medicaid, those things saved my life. And I need to pay it forward. So the people that are sending me to Congress should always know that as a father of two and a husband to a lovely wife and just somebody that came from nothing, I'm always going to be there for them front and center.
Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And when we come right back, Assemblywoman Claire Valdez.
Welcome back to Up Close. Joining us now, the Democratic Socialist candidate for New York's 7th Congressional District, Claire Valdez.
Ms. Valdez has been in the New York State Assembly since 2025. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in. You have been in office for about 18 months now. You're relatively new to New York politics.
True.
Why is it that you are deciding to throw your hat into this race?
You know, because workers are under the boots of bosses and billionaires right now. And we have, a real threat with Donald Trump in the White House, a climate denier, someone who's been attacking our democratic rights around the country. And we need real fighters to go to Washington to build the labor movement, to make sure that we're protecting our immigrant neighbors, our trans siblings. The scale of the crisis is very big, and we need people to step up.
What do you think the biggest issues are? We talk about, affordability and everything else. What's your biggest issue here?
The biggest issue in New York 7 is housing, the cost of housing. It's a district that's 77% tenants. So just a few days ago, so many of our residents parted with, the first, their rent check for the month. And for so many of them, that could have been most of a paycheck. So housing costs really unite the district. It doesn't matter if you're in Long Island City or Cypress Hills. Rents are going up, and I think the federal government has a role to play in protecting tenants and making sure that we're building deeply affordable housing. And I want to see the federal government be ambitious and to fight for that in Washington.
So what would your plan be to lower the rents and make housing more affordable?
Absolutely. I think we should be building housing. I think the federal government can take a leading role in building more NYCHA housing, more social housing. We can build housing that's deeply, permanently affordable, democratically managed by the people who live in it, and that's not at the whims of the real estate industry that can jack up our rents whenever they want to.
Not everyone wants to live in, let's say, a NYCHA place. But the mayor has already said he wants to put billions of dollars into building things that are the city building it, not the federal government.
Well, I think we can be partners in this work, right? I think it'll require partnership from the city, state, and federal government to make sure that we can actually put those investments in. Because it's going to be quite expensive, but in the richest country in the world, I think we have the resources to make sure that we have housing that's available to everyone, and that's beautiful.
You call yourself a democratic socialist, like Mayor Mamdani. Go ahead and explain what a democratic socialist is and how it differs from a Democrat.
Sure. So I'm a democratic socialist. I'm a proud member of New York City DSA. I really found my way to socialism through my union. My union taught me that organizing together is how we win better wages, better working conditions, how everyday working people can stand up against, my old employer was Columbia University, a $14 billion endowment institution that has incredible power. But when I was sitting across the table from them during negotiations, I was an equal, and I wasn't alone. I was with 500 of my coworkers fighting for what we deserved. And that's what democratic socialism is about. It's about expanding our democracy, so it's not just voting once or every 2-4 years. It's about how we're organizing together for the better for ourselves and for our families, our neighbors.
How do you get then, in terms of the economy? How do you get it? That's one way to do it. There's lots of ways to do it, right? There are other ways to do it. How do you get people, uberly rich people, and I'm not talking about people with $1 million a year. We're talking about billions of dollars that are not paying taxes. How do you get them to pay taxes? And how do you get people, average people, who are going up right now and saying, I want to be part of all this. I want a better job. I want more money in my pocket.
I think what we're finding now is that people want the good life. And what that looks like is time off, a living wage, time with your family, the opportunity to explore other interests and not getting ground down by your job. For me, the thing about my union that was really a gift was just being able to clock out at 5 o'clock and get overtime if they wanted to keep me for longer than that. And I think that's what people are really hungry for right now. I think we tax the rich, we tax the billionaires who have, made their billions by shortchanging workers by organizing. And we saw that in this year's state budget. The governor said no new taxes, but thousands and thousands of New Yorkers went to Albany, organized in their cities, talked to their neighbors, and we were able to win a $500 million pied-à-terre tax, a new tax on some of the wealthiest New Yorkers. And that will help make sure that our city is made whole.
Do you think it's enough?
It's not enough now, but we take the victories where we can and we'll organize for more. And I think it's really important, again, to say that this would not have been possible if everyday people hadn't gone out, canvassed, talked to their neighbors, and really fought for it.
You're talking about things that are going to do with the government. You've been here for, as Liz says, for about 18 months for just the local stuff in this state. Healthcare is a huge thing. You had to deal with it in Albany, and you'd have to deal with it, of course, in Washington. How do you do that?
We have to fight for Medicare for all. And I think everyone who's watching this right now has a story either from their own lives or from someone else in their lives, where a tooth filling falling out or stepping off a curb or an unexpected diagnosis almost derailed their entire lives or put them into deep medical debt. And it's completely unjust. Again, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, medical debt should not be an issue that anyone deals with. So we need to fight for Medicare for all. So no matter what your immigration status is, your employment status is, you have the health care that you deserve. And we have to take on private health insurance industry that has made billions and billions of dollars off of our need to get preventative care, gender affirming care, prenatal care, and really take on those corporate interests.
No Democrat that I know of would disagree with you, right? So how is that different from your political stance on this?
I think it is a matter of political will. And what we've seen is that the medical or the health insurance industry pours so much money into lobbying Congress. And it's been a real roadblock in advancing something like universal health care, Medicare for all at the federal level. And what we have to do is elect people who don't take that money, won't answer those lobbyists' calls, and will really fight for the things that we know people deserve.
Do Democrats do that?
I don't think that they've been fighting hard enough for Medicare for all. I think it's been put on the back burner. And again, I think the private health insurance lobbyists have a real stranglehold on Congress, and they're not the only industry that does.
So then if you are elected and you go to Washington, D.C., what is it about your particular plan that will change what is basically a mainstay. And as we saw earlier this year with the Trump administration and, Obamacare just kind of peter out.
I think what I'm offering is a vision of someone who has been a union organizer, a labor organizer, and has a real deep commitment to the movements that have brought me to, run for assembly and now run for Congress. Because one congressperson can't do this all by themselves. One politician can't do this by themselves. It takes a real movement of people fighting, on the outside and on the inside of the walls of power to win these things. And that's what I'm really committed to doing, what I've done in my time in Albany, too.
Let's talk about immigration to some degree. We see what's happening in New Jersey right now. It's happening in New York still. What's your position on all this? Have you gone to the place in New Jersey where they are?
Yeah, I was there a few days ago at Delaney Hall
Right.
and talked to some of the organizers who are there providing, assistance to families and trying to, make sure that things were staying calm and people were staying safe.
What was your reaction to all that?
I mean, it's horrifying, and you're right that this is happening all over the country. It's horrifying to know that our immigrant neighbors are being kept in these absolutely cruel, inhumane conditions. They're being fed, rotten food. They're being forced to sign their own deportation orders, and just torn apart from their families. It does not keep any of us safe. I firmly believe that we have to abolish ICE, and that the billions of dollars that we're pouring into this militarized agency should be used to affirm our lives, make sure that we have Medicare for all, make sure we have, adequate housing, and that we're welcoming people who are coming to this country escaping, violence, environmental disaster, sanctions, and so many other things.
So considering then the current administration that we are in, how would you then go about talking to them about abolishing ICE? That seems like a really big task.
I agree, and I think we should be really clear-eyed too about how hard it's going to be to advance, truly progressive and transformative legislation over the next couple of years. But I think the task before the Democratic Party is deciding if we're going to be a party that is imagining for the future beyond Trump. That's not just about, repairing the harm that this administration has done, but fighting for the working class people, winning Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, and making a plan for when we have power and we can rest and we can do this, if we're actually going to do it. So that's the real task right now, is making sure that we're organizing for that. And fighting every single day to make sure our immigrant neighbors are safe in New York City.
A lot of people who are in prison right now, basically, and they don't know where they're going to go or when they're going to go to their old place, they have been here for decades. And they are members of the working class here. And they are paying taxes.
Yep, absolutely. No, and the Trump administration wants to talk about, this is about public safety and arresting criminals. We know that's not true. These are hardworking members of our communities who are just being ripped away from their families, have committed no serious or violent crimes. And again, this does not make any of us safer. Investing in this deportation machinery is actually making all of us much less safe.
So some of the things that you say are very similar to what your opponent, Antonio Reynoso, also stand for. So what are the similarities? What are the differences in what you guys are standing on in terms of the issues?
New York 7 is probably the most progressive district in this country, which is great because we have wide agreement on things like Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, fighting climate change. Those are all good things. I'm glad there's agreement. What's important here is, again, we talked about housing earlier and how expensive it is. I'm not taking a dime from real estate. I'm the only candidate in this race that has made sure that, our campaign is funded by grassroots, working class people. We have over 20,000 individual donors, and none of them are real estate developers. I'm very proud of that because as we go to negotiate housing, as we go to fight for more funding for NYCHA or social housing, that those checks aren't hanging over our heads. So I think that's a really important distinction. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done building the labor movement as a rank and file member of UAW, democratizing the union, protecting my coworkers, defending our contract. And we need that organizing experience in Washington.
We have about 1 minute left, and we have talked about this. We could talk about stuff for hours, of course. What are the things we did not ask you about that you would like to talk about? We have a minute left.
I think we should talk about Gaza. We should talk about the ongoing genocide. It's been something that's really mobilized so many people in our district, hurt so many people in our district, and I have a very clear track record of organizing against it, for a ceasefire, and standing for a foreign policy that reflects international solidarity and human rights. And that's what I'm going to fight for if I go to Washington.
Most New Yorkers want that.
Yes.
Of all stripes, right? They don't want war. They want to come back and start working and be together again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful vision, and we can win it too.
Okay.
All right. State Assemblywoman Claire Valdez, thanks so much for coming in this morning to talk to us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
And we will be right back. And that will do it for this edition of Up Close. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Liz Chow.
And I'm Bill Ritter. For all of us here at Channel 7 Eyewitness News, we wish you health and peace. And let's take care of each other.